What's going on, everybody? This is John J Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the FCS Dynasty here on NCAA Football 2006, and also featuring that NCAA Next Mod version 9, as we got some great gameplay for you guys here today. 8 games on tap, as well as taking a general look around the NCAA as well. So a lot of action here in this episode. You're not going to want to miss a single thing. So get that popcorn out, hit that like button for me, hit that subscribe button if you want to be brand new to the channel, by the way, as we will jump into the very first game of this episode. We got South Carolina State undefeated. South Carolina State 4-0 and number 18 in the country, taking on this Delaware squad who off to a slow start, but that's not the case here in this ball game. Still all knotted up at 0 apiece here. We see the first big play of the day for Ivor's squad, and it sets up Delaware with a chance to get it into the end zone. Blumenfall's going to throw a rope into the end zone. It is going to be a touchdown for Delaware. The Blue Hens going to strike first in this one, as they will go ahead and take an early 7-0 lead, exactly the start that they needed. Last week, they were embarrassed by Bethune-Cookman, the Wildcats, and they're looking to avoid another such tragedy. A team that is defending their ACC Conference Championship. They did win the conference back in year number 1. As Blumenthal on 3rd and 18 is going to drop back to pass. He's going to throw it over the middle of the field, and in double coverage, that is going to be intercepted. And not only is that going to be intercepted, but it's going to be taken all the way back to the crib, and that is going to be a touchdown. Go South Carolina State. Tie this thing up at 7 apiece. Just not a wise decision by the freshman quarterback, as the number 18 team is back in this game. But we'll jump to midway through the second quarter of this ACC matchup, as Delaware is going to go ahead and receive the kick. We got some space to work with, but he forgets about the football, and South Carolina State is going to recover here. So now the Bulldogs with a chance to take the lead for the first time today. McDougal under center. He's going to roll to his left, but he's going to be intercepted though. Just a tough day for McDougal. Tough season for McDougal. He hasn't exactly been lighting the world on fire by any means, but only 3 touchdowns, 7 interceptions to go with it now thanks to this pick. They've been down bad. Might be someone that could be the downfall for South Carolina State if he doesn't turn it around quickly. As speaking of that quarterback position, McDougal is going to throw another interception. That's his 3rd interception that he throws in the first half, and it's keeping Delaware in the game. This could very well be a convincing, South Carolina State lead if it wasn't for all the turnovers. As speaking of turnovers, did the whole team on both sides get some freaking like butterfingers or something? Because seeing a lot of turnovers. Matter of fact, we do end up seeing a big guy touchdown. Elijah McCoy, the custom prospect, could not get there soon enough. The true freshman cannot prevent the touchdown, as South Carolina State now back ahead. But man, it has certainly been really ugly in this game so far, as it's a 17-7 deficit for the Blue Hens. As Blumenthal is going to unleash this pass down the sideline, and another turnover for Delaware. That has been really the story of this year for the Blue Hens. Just not able to get any offensive momentum. They couldn't score against the Wildcats. They have not looked good. There's a reason why they're 1-3. But despite the lead here, South Carolina State, they do elect to make a change at the quarterback position. This is Michael Hart. This is their backup quarterback, looking to come in the relief and try to close this thing out like a prime Aroldis Chapman. We'll see if he can lead his Bulldogs to victory. As that late in the 3rd quarter, Hart's going to throw over the middle, but it gets tipped at the line of scrimmage, and Delaware is going to get their 5th 5th turnover of the game. Just absolutely insane stuff. As now, Delaware with a chance to get it back to one possession. Blumenthal unleashing downfield, and it's going to be caught. Touchdown, Delaware. And the Blue Hens striking within just 3 of the number 18 team in college football. And it should be setting up for an exciting 4th quarter. Hart trying to run downfield. He fumbles again. Turnover number 6. And all of a sudden, Delaware, they are going to go ahead. They're going to take the lead. Despite the fact that their offense really has not been there today. But just all of the turnovers for both teams. It's not a who wants it more. It's just who wants to lose less. You know, it's just one of those things. It's just really confusing game to start this episode, man. I am perplexed. But Delaware with a slim lead here as we progress into the 4th quarter, as special teams might end up being the ultimate difference maker, as that is going to be taken to the crib for a touchdown, as that does end up sealing the deal. And we start this episode off with an upset. Delaware, the defending champions, they do go ahead and they beat the number 18 ranked South Carolina State Bulldogs, 28-17 being the final score. As Delaware, they're going to they have some real work to do if they want to go to the FCS playoffs. Basically, in a situation, those 3 losses early in the year, basically they have to win out if they want to make it to the FCS playoffs like they did back in year number 1. So how about that for a shocking way to start this episode? But you never know what could happen, you know, in these games. As we now progress down south, we take a look at Appalachian State taking on the Georgia Southern Eagles, who come in this week ranked number 19 in the country, despite struggling to remain 500 as the season has progressed so far. And think about Georgia Southern and Appalachian State, they are both FBS teams today, but the thing about these two teams, man, they hated each other when they're in the FCS, and now even at the FBS level today, they still hate each other. So she'll be in for a really exciting rivalry game, as Ikeda Woods is going to pitch it out to Albert Mincelli. And Mincelli, one man left to beat the safety, cannot get the right angle, and that man is gonna be gone. 84-yard touchdown pass here as we get close to the end of the 1st quarter already, and we finally see that goose egg gotten rid of off of the scoreboard. So 7-0 lead here for the Eagles of Georgia Southern. As Ikeda Woods lines up under center, is going to hand it off to Minacci once again. Minacci spins off of one defender, and he can almost, he almost broke that one as well. Minacci is a weapon, and he has really been probably the most improved player that I have seen. Hardly had a role back in season number 1, but he has really stepped in to that impact player role as Minacci bounces this one to the outside. And it's already going to be 2 rushing touchdowns for the junior tailback. And that's the thing with Minacci. He still has 1 more year of eligibility after this year, as Georgia Southern 14-0 lead. And we'll see if Appalachian State can possibly keep up, as Joey Washington, quarterback in the Mountain Years, is going to get a nice throw down the sideline. That will at least, be a really good gain downfield. Can they finish this drive, though? 3rd and 16 from the 29. Washington trying to throw this to the left-hand side, and it ends up being caught. Touchdown, Appalachian State, as DeAndre Dowdell II could not make a play on that football. And now, just a 1-possession game, as Ikeda Woods is going to actually pass the football here. They're not passing the football as much as they did back in season number 1, but when they do pass the football, for the most part, they, do a solid job with it, as Ikeda Woods, just casually throwing across his body, 50-yard touchdown pass, just typical Ikeda Woods stuff, just making some great things happen. There's a reason why he was a Heisman finalist last year, as Woods throws it over the right-hand side, trying to double dip before going into the halftime locker room, but instead, he gives the Mountaineers here a little bit of life, before going into the end of the first half, as Paul Outlaw is going to get the interception here. Ikeda Woods just slightly overthrowing his defender. And now the Mountaineers with a chance to cut it down to one possession before we go into halftime. And what an incredible throw by Joey Washington, as they will go ahead and use one of their timeouts here as they get to midfield. A few plays later, got 3rd and 17. They go with the speed option on a 3rd and 17, but there's a fumble, and Georgia Southern is going to recover it. Joey Washington just trying to do a little bit too much there to end the first half. Now, the Eagles don't do anything with this, so it will remain 21-7. But you cannot make these kind of mistakes if you're out here trying to come out and pull the upset on Georgia Southern, man. As, oh my, Ikeda Woods, you didn't have to do them dirty like that. That is a quarterback that is out here. Look at this replay. Spins moves one, sidesteps another. Just incredible work by Ikeda Woods. One of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the FCS. Don't know if he's going to make it to the NFL. That 5'6" frame might prevent him. But you cannot deny the talent that Ikeda Woods has. Even though he's more of a distributor this year in the triple option, just a lot of teams really focusing on Ikeda Woods this year. And no surprise. But we get into the fourth quarter here, and Georgia Southern, they actually go ahead and put in the backup. So now Mark Greenwood is going to come into the game for the Eagles. So we'll go ahead and see what this backup offense can do. Chris Palmer, of course, had a nice block. Custom player at tight end, the true freshman, as Greenwood had a chance to go ahead and maybe lead another drive and maybe cut the recording, get up out of here, maybe show a box score. But Paul Outlaw there once again able to get the forced fumble there. Surprised he didn't mark them down. It looked really close, but Joey Washington now going up against the backups of Georgia Southern. So we'll see if maybe they see how this plays out, right? Backups, definitely getting some playing experience, but man, you want to talk about some disrespect. You got their rival playing the backups up against you and doing so with a purpose, right? But Joey Washington with the backup defense in the game is able to drive his team down the face of the field. Is going to set up this play action and ends up finding the tight end in the back of the end zone. So touchdown for the Mountaineers there. They go for, they don't go for two. They just go for the extra point there. But still really down by a significant margin. 38-14 right now. It's just, it's a lot of work to do. It really is. As Joey Washington just now with that run gets his team to positive yardage in terms of, the rushing attack. They're going to have to go quick here if they want to, try to make this really any hope of making this a game. I mean, even if you score here, you got to go about getting some onside kicks, right? And I've only seen like 1 or 2 being recovered since this series specifically has started. As now Appalachian State, they get into the red zone. They're okay in the red zone, 4 for 6 on the year in terms of touchdowns. Let's make it 5 for 7. They do end up going for the 2-point conversion this time around, but they will not be successful in that endeavor. And yeah, those last 2 garbage touchdowns, make the scoreboard look a little bit, easier on the eyes for those that are rooting for Appalachian State to pull off the upset. But we knew what was going to happen. Georgia Southern taking care of business here, man, as we will go ahead. See Georgia Southern for the very first time, actually, over 500. That's a crazy thing to think about because they have been ranked in this AP Top 25 the entire season so far, as they win this one handily, winning by a final score of 38-20 in this rivalry matchup. As we go ahead and move out to the Pacific Northwest, seeing some additional love from the Pac-10, as out of the 10 teams that are in this conference, 4 of them are ranked in the top 25, and Northern Arizona is one of them, making their first appearance in the top 25 in this series. But they got a bunch of injuries though, and Weber State, they are no slouches. They almost pulled the upset last year against Montana. They've been in there in those big games. So could be a trap game for Northern Arizona, as they're led by their backup quarterback, Kevin Wilson, who, to be fair, Kevin Wilson has been leading the ship pretty well in the absence of the starting quarterback. And it also doesn't, mind that, he's got a good defense, as well as he's going to pick off Sean Washington early in this one. And that'll give Northern Arizona some good field position to work with, but can't capitalize off of it though. So they got to go ahead and punt this football away. Back to the Wildcats of Weber State, as we got a fumble on the ground. And it does end up being recovered by the Lumberjacks of Northern Arizona. As now, first and goal, gonna hand it off to Dontrell White, who's gonna just glide his way into the end zone, not even remotely touched. And Northern Arizona's gonna take a 7-3 lead. Despite the number of injuries that Northern Arizona has, they're holding strong here. They're looking solid. Makes me think that, when they get healthy, are they a sleeper to win the Pac-10 conference? I don't know, man. Y'all let me know down in the comments what you think about that bold take of mine, as Northern Arizona, they look good early. Like I said, 14-3 lead. Great stuff here. As we get into the last few minutes of the first half, Stephen Washington is going to go play action here. Rolls to the left. He's going to fire this downfield to Ed Houston. Double coverage. It don't even matter though. Ed Houston simply built different. Now Weber State does not choose to go for the 2-point conversion, so still down by 1, but a chance to possibly take the lead. But instead, we see a Northern Arizona interception. Third turnover of the day for the Wildcats of Weber State, as that defense has really been living up to it. Defense that has given up a lot of yards, but they have a bend don't break principle. So when it matters, their defense does step up. As Kevin Wilson, he's going to fire this thing to the outside. He's going to get a touchdown here, and a 21-13 lead likely to be taken into the halftime locker room. As we jump into the second half now, Wilson still doing good. Looking over the right-hand side. He's going to test his defense, and it's going to end up being intercepted, and Kevin Wilson is going to throw his first interception of the year, as Darnell Parrish wins the one-on-one matchup on the outside. It's not even a bad read by Wilson. Just his receiver just does not able to make the play, unfortunately. As the injuries continue to pile up, as one of the defenders in Frank Reed ends up getting hurt. That's a 4-week injury due to an abdominal strain. So the depth of Northern Arizona certainly being tested over the course of this season, as Ed Houston is able to get loose once again, and he's having a career day. 7 catches, 139 yards to go with it as well, and just being a real good go-to target for Stephen Washington. As Weber State is now in their third attempt at the red zone. They've been held to field goals the first couple of times, as they go to the tailback, Mike Mitchell. And Mitchell is going to find the end zone. Touchdown, Weber State. And 2-point conversion is going to be on the way, but they will not be able to convert it. So Weber State, they still find themselves down by a couple of points, but Stephen Washington's going to throw yet another touchdown. That would have been an unsportsmanlike penalty today, but 2005, we didn't have as soft egos. And Weber State going to take the lead going into the fourth quarter. And that's where things truly get wild, as we see Northern Arizona, the special teams, bouncing it to the outside. We got a little bit of a Houdini act, and he is going to go all the way. Touchdown, Lumberjacks. And despite having 3 times less offensive production, they are going to have the lead. They have a chance of escaping and winning this game on the road. That would be a statement, considering that Weber State, talented football team. They're a good football team. Definitely not to be messed with, but And here we are, barbecue on the titties, and Houston now gives Weber State the lead again. And thanks to a 2-point conversion, they now know that they cannot lose on a touchdown, so that pressure getting put on Kevin Wilson now. But here's some stuff that maybe they should have done earlier. Get him out on the perimeter, get some speed options going on the right-hand side, as that turns into a really successful play. Darrell White able to go ahead and pick up that first down there by a long shot. But here they go, 4th down, few plays later. If they don't get this first down, it's over. Looking, Wilson gonna fire towards the end zone, and it gets tipped, and it's going to be caught for a touchdown. And now it's all knotted up at 35 apiece. I hope you guys got the track cleats out. We got a track meet as Stephen Washington's gonna fire to the right hand side to Ed Houston, and Ed Houston might have sealed the deal again. This time a 51-yard touchdown catch for the impact wide receiver that might help the Wildcats bring this over the top. But was there too much time left on the clock? Apparently not the case, as Weber State does come out and they pull the upset over the number 23 team in college football, Northern Arizona. I will be very curious to see how Weber State goes for the rest of the season, as they're having a nice year. They're now 3-1 thanks to this win specifically. Meanwhile, the Lumberjacks of Northern Arizona, they are going to lose their very first game of the season and will likely be out of the top 25. But I still think, even though they lost here, Northern Arizona, they might be a sleeper still to make it into the FCS playoffs. We'll just have to wait and see. So those first few games that we witnessed were simply the appetizer, as we now jump into the first of 5 top 25 matchups. And in particular to this game right here should have been the game of the week, but that, NCAA did not see it that way, as we have the rematch of the national championship game from year number 1, as Kent State is slated to take on these Eastern Michigan Eagles. Kent State, of course, pulling off that stunning year 1 playoff form, going from the 20th seed and going all the way to the national championship game. They look strong early here in the season, defending their national title. But this Eastern Michigan squad, the national runners up, they're going to be looking for some revenge, as Eastern Michigan is going to let it be known that they did not like getting treated the way that they were treated in that national championship game, as the Eagles are going to strike out. Huge lead to begin this game, 7-0 lead here. You love getting those first points, especially going up against national champions, but they're the defending champs for a reason, as Tyler Williams is going to get it out to his tailback, and his tailback is going to go ahead and put in the rest of the work, shaking a defender off. And a tight game early here. Kent State actually missing the extra points, so they don't tie it up. It's a 1-point deficit instead, as we see this quarterback use his athleticism, did a little bit of Houdini work there as well to get into the end zone. And it is another touchdown for the Eagles, as there was 3 defenders in the vicinity just at the line of scrimmage, and yet none of them can go ahead and bring them down. It's now 14-6 game here. We see this tailback take it out on the perimeter. He's got some space to work with, and that is going to be yet another touchdown for Eastern Michigan. Make that 20-6, as that does end up being yet another missed extra point. I don't know what it is about this side of the field. Kickers are really struggling on this side of the field in particular, but it's not affecting either offense, or at least in particularly this Eastern Michigan offense, as they go out there after what was a 7-6 game. We are now talking about a 19 unanswered points. We'll see if they can get it up to 26 unanswered points, and sure enough they do, as a speed option out on the left-hand side is going to be in the end zone. And it's another touchdown for the Eagles, as this game is starting to completely get out of hand, and certainly a result that I was not expecting, considering Kent State, hottest team in the country right now, may not be the official #1 team, but they came in here with an 8-game winning streak, which is the longest winning streak in this FCS Dynasty universe. And it looks like that's going to be in some serious danger, as Williams trying to lead his guys downfield, trying to storm some kind of comeback. And this will certainly help, as Tyler Williams gets a huge touchdown throw downfield. That's his 11th touchdown pass of the season. Now, Kent State does, of course, also happen to miss that extra point. So 38-12 game, but they really need to get some stops on defense here if they want to have a chance to come back and win this game, and that simply was not meant to be today, as Eastern Michigan, them boys are not going to be denied in this game, as they end up going out there and they end up putting forth the 50 burger on the defending national champions. The 8-game winning streak gets snapped, and the Eagles looking impressive. So we go to another top 25 matchup, but out in the Pacific Northwest, we have Idaho State taking on North Dakota State, as two teams that are both in the top 25. Idaho State, they are out here, you know, very first top 25 appearance. They've been off to a strong start, but they have not been tested like they are about to be here. North Dakota State, we know they are a very good football team, went to the FCS playoffs last year, and if Idaho State has any chance of pulling off the upset, they are going to have to rely on Chris Palmer, the quarterback for the Bengals, in order to lead them over the top. But not a good start for the Bengals, as Chris Palmer is going to end up getting intercepted. But not only that, but John Paul Anderson, the true freshman, yes sir, you read that correctly, this man, like I said, was just, you know, getting ready for spring ball, you know, trying to be a mentor to the younger high school players a few months ago. He runs it back to the crib for a pick six, and North Dakota State takes an early lead. But we see Brian Alexander get hurt, so Mike Ferguson is going to actually come into the game here, and he's actually going to put the ball on the ground, where Idaho State is going to go ahead and take advantage. We'll see if these Bengals, who've been really good on third down so far, can they take advantage? Got to pick up this first down first, but this North Dakota State squad, they just have so much speed in comparison to these Bengals of Idaho State. So it's going to be some tough sledding for them. Like I said, they are going to be challenged. And what's not going to be helping is Mike Sapp. He's going to take the kick return from the punt, and he is going to be strutting his stuff all the way to the end zone, and it's going to be a touchdown for the Bison. So an early 14-0 lead thanks to the special teams unit, as now Chris Palmer is in a little bit of trouble. 1st and 10, throwing over the middle of the field, and that's actually going to end up being caught. And that was definitely needed there for sure, as the wheel pattern ends up working in their favor. So Idaho State with a chance to come in and get some points on the board. Quick throw, but it ends up getting intercepted. So they can't take advantage, as Lonnie Rushing is going to go out there, and they are going to get an interception once again, preventing those points. So while Idaho State still looks to get off the scoreboard, Ferguson got some other plans. He's going to find Ronnie Anderson running around the perimeter, and going to help lead to yet another touchdown drive, as North Dakota State just runs over everybody there. And it's now a 21-0 lead here in the Fargo Dome, and it is sure rocking right about now, as we'll go in with 3:28 left to play in the first half. Something is about to go down, as the great comedian Kevin Hart once says. as that kick return is going to be brought out of the end zone, but can't find anything, and it's going to be recovered by the Bison. So Dixon down bad, as we were looking at yet another touchdown opportunity for the Bison, and they are not going to flinch. The number 7 team in America, proving why they are the way they are. 28-0 lead here, and they can even add more before going into the locker room, as Rod Montez, who actually just got his impact star, one of the first custom players to get their impact star. Montez going to get that out. Looks like 22 yards was the final official catch, and it sets up another red zone opportunity. Ferguson going to throw it towards the end zone, but it's going to be incomplete. Was looking for Mike Sapp, the red zone threat, and it brings up 3rd down as Ferguson drops back to pass again. 35 seconds left. The play is going to be intercepted. Idaho State, they finally do something, and not a complete blowout, at least not yet. While it is still a huge deficit that they are going to have to find a way to overcome. A little bit of momentum possibly going into the end of the first half, as they're trying to do something a little bit tricky at the end of the first half, but Chris Palmer, he drops it. It is going to be picked up by John Paul Anderson. That's going to be his 2nd touchdown of the game, and it leads to a 35-0 lead for the Bison. And we'll see if the Idaho State Bengals can play a little bit better here in the second half, as Palmer facing a ton of pressure, but he does move up in the pocket and is going to throw a strike right down the middle of the field, and it's going to be a touchdown for Idaho State. So at least Idaho State, they do end up getting off the board, but man, it is certainly going to be tough to come back. Just a huge deficit that they are facing right now, as here we go. 3rd and goal from the 9-yard line. Ferguson dropping back, gonna try to throw this thing towards the end zone, and he finds Mike Sapp for yet another touchdown. And if it wasn't official already, I think it's safe to say that it's gonna be barbecue chicken. Idaho State, of course, is a improved football program. I like their direction, but I think they're still a year or two away from competing for the top of the Pac-10. So let's go ahead and jump into the game that actually was considered the game of the week. We got the number 15 ranked UNLV Rebels going on the road to play against the number 2 team in America. We got North Dakota State now, as both of these teams, undefeated in conference play. Whoever wins this game is going to jump into first place in the New Look Mountain West, as both teams are going to be coming onto the field now. And let me just say right off the top, San Diego State, they got some really cool uniforms, man. And Andy Mosley looks good, plays good. 17 touchdowns on the year so far. He is currently in that Heisman finalist conversation, as Lee Corso is going to pick San Diego State. But we'll see if this game is a little bit closer, as when these two teams met back in year number 1, it ended up being a blowout. We'll see if some things change here in year number 2, as UNLV is already playing better than last year's squad, as they are going to take the opening kickoff right to the crib, a 94-yard kick return. And the Rebels jump to a 7-0 lead early, but Andy Mosley, he is a bad man, as Stephen A. Smith would say, as he is going to throw a dot towards the end zone. Make that touchdown number 18 for Mr. Mosley. And just like the number on his back, he's got 7 points for his squad. And it's all knotted up at 7 apiece now. Could be a track meet. Both teams have very prolific offenses, but how about Botteford, who just doing some spin cycle stuff right there? Oh my goodness. Makes a couple of guys miss, and stiff arms a man into the next dimension as well. You love to see it. But Mosley gonna throw yet another touchdown pass here as well, and that's gonna be another touchdown for San Diego State. So back and forth affair early here in this first quarter, as it still remains all tied up. As now, Botiford takes the snap from shotgun. He's going to throw it to the outside, but it's going to be intercepted. And that is how San Diego State is going to take their very first lead of this ball game. Just reading the eyes of the quarterback right there, and that is going to be a 21-14 lead for the Aztecs. So we'll see how Botiford can respond on the very next drive, and he's just going to calmly throw a touchdown that will tie this thing up. We're still in the first quarter, guys, and it was 21-all. So hope you guys brought those track cleats, because let me tell you right now, we got ourselves a track meet here, and sometimes it's just better to be lucky than it is to be good, man. Look at this. I mean, it's like double, triple coverage. Yeah, definitely double coverage, and safety even makes a play on the ball, but just, you know, doesn't get the tip drill to go his way. And Andy Mosley, they done messed up. They let him get in a zone, and he's just tearing this UNLV defense apart. A defense that's actually is not that bad. Like, unlike like their actual defense, the defense in this game actually is solid squad, but Andy Mosley having no problems with it. It's going to be really interesting to see if somebody can stop him this year, because as you can see, he is clearly on a mission right now. Make that 42-21. Yeah, 42-21. It was a 21-all game in the first quarter and 21 unanswered points. All Andy Mosley throws. And here we go. Botiford going to drop back the pass, throws it out to the tight end. He will not be forgotten. He's going to also go ahead and throw a touchdown there as well to make it a 2-score game. We'll see if the Rebels can rally back. Craig Hall comes to the game because Botiford did end up getting shaken up, and he's actually dislocates his elbow in this game, so he's actually going to be out for the rest of the year. So that could honestly really be a negative influence on this UNLV squad, who's trying to make their second playoff appearance in 2 years, as Hall is going to go ahead and throw one over the middle of the field. He is going to get a late touchdown, and that will at least cut it down to just a field goal game. It's still a very tight affair, but Andy Mosley, with a chance to put the dagger, is going to hand it off to his tailback, and his tailback not only going to run some time off the clock, but he's also going to provide the final dagger. And for the second time in 2 years, San Diego State is going to win this game, and a kind of statement win against UNLV, as they win by a final score of 52-42. Definitely one of the more high-scoring games that we have seen in this series so far, and it's certainly the highest scoring game that we have witnessed here in year number 2. You cannot blame Craig Hall or Johnny Botiford for UNLV's loss. I mean, you put up 40+ points, 9 times out of 10, you're going to win the game. This just ends up being one of those times as the defense completely took a day off. The defensive coordinator got to put in that pink slip, because that performance, simply not it. So we'll see if the defenses for both these teams play a little bit better here, as we got a top 10 matchup in the fields of the Midwest, as we got the number 6 ranked Akron Zips taking on the number 8 Central Michigan Chippewas, as both teams are still undefeated as of right now. But we will go ahead and see which team comes out on top. One team going to have to lose their very first game of the season. Who's it gonna be, as Central Michigan looks to get the first points on the board, but instead it looks like it's going to be Akron who is going to get those first points instead, as Nate Albin just read the eyes of the quarterback, and probably one of the easiest pick 6 that he's ever going to have in his collegiate career, as no one's even remotely close to catching up to him. So an early 7-0 lead, as this game was a truly defensive affair early. Nothing really much happening until we do end up getting to the very end of the first half. This is the final play, and Central Michigan Looks like their special teams went to the locker room early because no one touches this guy, and he is going to be gone like a girl in a country song. And Akron goes into the locker room with a 14-0 lead. And they just really take that momentum to really seize control of this game. 21-0 in favor of the Zips. So now, moving into the fourth quarter, Akron did get a couple of field goals. So it's 27-0, but there will not be a shutout here at home. It is not going to be happening here today, as an 80-yard touchdown pass finally does go ahead and get the goose egg off the scoreboard, but it is considered too little too late, unfortunately, as Akron gets a convincing win here on the road. They win this one by a final score of 30-7. A great win for this Akron program as they now move to 4-0, while Central Michigan, they do end up dropping their very first game of the season. We'll see how far they jump into the polls, but something that I do want to point out, like something that I didn't want to, that I didn't show, but because I didn't want to spend a ton of time on this game, Akron got 14 sacks on defense. No wonder they ended up winning this game with ease. So we have certainly seen multiple upsets here in this episode, but that is not limited to the gameplay that we are seeing, throughout week number 6. It also applies to the simulation. First and foremost, we got Southeast Missouri State, big wins off of Montana and Western Kentucky. They go home against Murray State and lose their first game of the year. Murray State improves to 2-3. We'll see what happens to the Redhawks, though. As for James Madison, they do end up handling business, beating the Wildcats of Bethune-Cookman. They win 38-24. The Wildcats falling to 1-4, while James Madison should remain in the top 10. As for UCF, they had no problems with their matchup against the Spiders of Richmond, winning 42-10. And remaining undefeated on the season. Utah State, however, cannot say the same thing, as they also went on the road and were upsetted by San Jose State, losing by a field goal in overtime, and the Aggies will suffer their first loss of the year because of it. As for SMU, they played host to William & Mary as the Tribe have continued their arduous schedule, third strength top 25 opponent in their third straight loss as well, losing 44-28 in this one. Mustangs improving to 3-2. As for New Hampshire, we see them play host to the winless Howard Bison, and Howard still desperately searching for that first win of the year. They lose 45-19 against the number 4 team in college football. The Wildcats 4-0, looking to try to move up from their number 4 spot. We do have a rivalry game out in the Big Sky Conference, though, as Montana and Eastern Washington did have a shootout, but Montana did end up prevailing, winning 52-32, now 3-1 on the year, while Eastern Washington falls to 1-3. We're going to get back into the top 25. Temple looking to rebound off their slow start. They played up against the Charleston Cougars and won big, 54-3. Being the final score, and it ends up being the biggest blowout of week number 6. Tulane, similar blowout, but in a positive way, though, as they went on the road to play against the Hofstra Pride. Hofstra did not have any pride in this game, though, losing 45-3. Tulane should be staying in the top 25. Also looking to get back into the top 25 is the Idaho Vandals, playing host to the St. Thomas Tommies, and winning big in this one, 42-3. St. Thomas still looking for their first win since they pulled the upset on UNLV back in week number 2. Also looking to remain in the top 25 is the Buffalo Bulls, who played host to Western Michigan, taking care of business, winning 42-17. So as we wrap up week 6 action, not only do we have another top 25 matchup, but a borderline top 10 matchup, as Eastern Carolina, the number 1 team in all of college football, taking on fellow conference opponent Rice, who comes in ranked number 11 in the country. They are also undefeated as well, but they're going to have to find a way to stop the duo of Ricky McFadden and Barrett Haston. Both those guys certainly very talented football players, and they're very lucky to have them. As now, Eastern Carolina, they are actually going to get punched in the mouth here early, as Rice not only is going to get a touchdown on the board to start this game, but in a position to be down 14-0 early, as Rice, they run another option and it works to perfection. And the Owls looking to pull the upset on the #1 team in the country. They're trying to storm the field, man. You know what time it is. No greater feeling than taking on the #1 team in the country, beating them at your stadium too. But this Eastern Carolina squad has some other plans, as ensuing kickoff gets it out, and it goes to this very talented Eastern Carolina squad. They got some playmakers all over the place, and we're seeing one of them here as he is gonna be gone. Mama, there goes that man. And it's back to a one possession game. Not only that, backup tailback in the game, gonna try to break this one wide, butt naked opening is gonna do that. And it's gonna be a tie ball game between these two very talented Conference USA squads. Is Eastern Carolina, though, starting to find that rhythm, as it ends up being a 14-all game going into the second half. And Eastern Carolina is going to receive, as they did end up kicking it off to start the first half. And we saw one special teams touchdown already. We're going to see two. Call that double trouble back to back. Call it like a Drake song, and it's going to be a touchdown for the Pirates, as it will be the first lead of the day for Eastern Carolina after being down 14-0 early. They come back with 21 unanswered points to seize the lead, but still a quarter left to play. Can they hang on and build off of this? McFadden hands it off, and it's just another foot race. Backup tailback Jeff Wilson showing off, as Barrett Haston did end up getting hurt in this game as well. Hopefully he is going to be all right, and it's not too long-term of an injury, because that could hurt their long-term prospects a little bit. But in terms of right now, they're chilling. They are having a good old time right now, as they get 35 unanswered points after falling 14-0 early, and they prove why they are indeed considered the #1 team in all of college football, as Eastern Carolina, with a little bit of trouble for about a quarter and a half, and then they turned things around, winning 35-14. Rice, of course, gave a really good effort. You know, they tried to stick to their game plan in terms of playing keep away against this Eastern Carolina squad, but eventually, you know, when Eastern Carolina built that lead, forced Rice to be a little bit uncomfortable with their system, and it led to this another win for the Pirates. So as we turn the page on another week of college football, we find that we continue to see these surprising upsets. Utah State is on the cover, but in a negative way, as they suffered that first loss of the season, as I mentioned earlier. So that does beg the question, how far do they end up falling in the top 25 polls? We'll go ahead and check that out, as we now have two real FCS teams in the top 5. Top 5 remaining basically the same. New Hampshire, Akron, and North Dakota State. All teams that did end up moving up because of the Utah State loss. James Madison now also at #7 in the country after a 2-touchdown win over the Wildcats of Bethune-Cookman. Montana is also in the top 10 as well. If the season ended today, they would have one of the buys that would ultimately go for the FCS playoffs. So that's, you know, something to really think about, something that we got going on. Kent State, they also, biggest loss of the year. Talk about a way to lose their longest winning streak of college football. They're now down 9 spots to number 12. Central Michigan falls 5 spots after their loss to Akron, and then Rice falls 3 spots after a 3-touchdown loss to the Eastern Carolina Pirates. Meanwhile, Georgia Southern gets back into the top 15 with a 18-point win over Appalachian State. Utah State with the biggest fall in the top 25 polls, now down to number 17 after a field goal loss to San Jose State. So that says how poorly they viewed that program. UNLV is still hanging on. They took a 10-point loss to San Diego State. But some new teams in the top 25 poll, though, as we got Florida Atlantic. We also have North Texas. And then Arkansas Pine Bluff, now at 4-0. They get their first appearance in the top 25 here in season number 2. With a few teams trying to get in, UMass, I need to see UMass some respect on their name, man. They've been in this others receiving votes for a while, and they just have not been able to crack that top 25 yet. Definitely a shame. But South Carolina State, Idaho State, and Northern Arizona, they're all in this category after all falling out of the top 25 recently due to the events of last week. Western Carolina also knocking on the door as well in terms of trying to get back into that top 25 after a shocking loss to Eastern Washington. But as for the Heisman watch, there's a new man on top, and his name was Andy Mosley. He is killing things as of right now. He had 13 touchdowns the last couple of games, so he's now sitting in first place, but his teammate is right behind him, though. Sophomore wide receiver Brian Pruitt, who had 7 catches, 153 yards, a couple of touchdowns as well. Very good performance. Has 8 receiving touchdowns on the year. Almost half of the touchdowns that Andy Mosley has thrown so far. So, definitely a good 1-2 punch. Obviously the best 1-2 punch in college football right now, down the FCS level. Third place, we got one of 2 seniors on the list, Zach Gilmore. Fresh off of a 32-point win off of Richmond. 9 total touchdowns so far in the year. Already closing in on 1,000 total yards. Ends up with 800 yards of offense so far. So he moves up to third. Albert Minacci, I know some of you were referring to him as a weapon and fan favorite, the junior running back. He's been really instrumental. He's been, he really stepped up this year. 11 total touchdowns so far on the season. This is a guy that did not have as much of a role last year. Only 3 carries. And now all of a sudden talking about a guy that, is making a much bigger impact. Definitely the most improved player among players on this list. And then we have the senior wide receiver rounding out the list. He was at number 2, but fell all the way down to 5. And that's even with, 8 catches. But didn't do much with those 8 catches, so only 49 yards. Still having a good year, though. 7 total touchdowns for the senior. As for players of the week, it looks like Derek Keefe's finding his rhythm again, man. We see Derek Keefe with a 7 touchdown performance against Eastern Washington. They had that shootout, and Derek Keefe was able to lead them over the top. Finally, a breakout performance for the senior quarterback. But on the defensive side of the football, John Paul Anderson, the true freshman, this guy was just on the prom court a few months ago, and now he's a defensive player of the week for the NCAA. Dude he only had 2 tackles, but he did have an interception, and he also contributed to 2 touchdowns. It was an early blowout against Idaho State, and they prove that North Dakota State is still very much the class of this conference. We'll see how they fare against Montana. It's going to come down to those 2 teams. With Idaho State and Northern Arizona, they still probably are a year or 2 away from legitimately competing to be at the top of this conference and winning that AQ qualifier. So it's been an exciting football season, and we still have plenty of football to go. Next episode is going to mark roughly the halfway point here of this college football season, and it's going to continue to get better every game, almost every game, of course, going to feature a top 25 team. Got some national television games, definitely to watch out for. And I hope you guys are excited for that next episode, man. But in the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed today's content. If you did, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button for me. Hit that subscribe button if you do happen to be brand new to the channel as well. This is John J Gaming on the mic signing off. But I'm hoping you're all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.